one of the things that it seemed a lot of people wanted to hear about is rising signs and appearance, how they affect your appearance. So I'm gonna just go through those and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Okay, so let's start with Aries rising. And some might be specific to male or female, which I will specify. And if you're non-binary, you can relate to either description. So Aries rising people are very almost childlike. They have this kind of innocence about them that's really fun and exciting and exuberant. They're usually very active people. They like to work out. They like to constantly be doing stuff. They're very like witty and sassy and childlike in a way. Usually physically, I will say a lot of times eyebrows are a thing with Aries rising. And this can apply sometimes to sun signs, but I'm just talking about risings at the moment. So eyebrows, a look of sort of mischievousness in their eye, and youthfulness. A lot of Aries rising people look young even as they get older. Okay, Taurus rising. Taurus rising people always have this really down-to-earth vibe about them. They're very personable people, and even their faces are very approachable. They usually have very like girl next door or boy next door type vibes to them. So a lot of them have like a sort of natural beauty. If they're a girl, they probably don't wear a lot of makeup. And there's just this sort of down-to-earth natural vibe about them, and they're very approachable, very easy to get to know, get acquainted with. I would say looks-wise, sometimes they have a sort of, I don't want to say pudgy nose, but like maybe a soft nose and like sort of soft lips, soft features. And again, just sort of that naturalness, that natural look. Let's see, Gemini rising. Gemini rising people are like all over the place. They're probably people that are gonna talk a lot with their hands, and their eyes kind of blink a lot, and they're kind of like moving around a lot. They're kind of everywhere at once. And they're very exciting people, but they can be sort of polarizing because they're sort of, I don't want to say drama starters, but sometimes unintentionally drama starters. They talk a lot. They can be kind of nervous, have like little nervous habits, but they are ultimately sociable. I would say Gemini rising, look at the eyes, the movement of the eyes, look at the movement of the hands. They're usually somewhat slimmer in body type, and just very, you know, okay, Cancer rising people are super sexy, I've noticed, and just very kind of moody and kind of sensual, and kind of like they have this very like, I'm sad but I need love, and I'm this very like sort of artistic vibe to them. They kind of got sad eyes, but they're very beautiful, and very kind of mystical and magical, and they have this sort of charm that's very like calm and otherworldly and quiet and seductive. But they can also be, you know, moody, and I wouldn't say they're the biggest smilers around, but when they do smile, it's very bright and very like personable, and like lights up your soul if you to see them smile. Leo rising. Leo rising people are going to make their presence known right away. They always look good, like they like to make sure they look good from head to toe. They're usually into fashion and into just like kind of making a statement with their appearance. Hair is usually a thing for them. It doesn't matter if it's short, long, whatever, but they usually are very about their hair as part of their look. Usually have a smile on their face, and they definitely have a look that's very noticeable and eye-catching. And they're almost like they have this sort of actorly quality to them, even if they're not into acting. they kind of can portray different characters, and they kind of have this vibe of the actor about them. It's a little bit dramatic, but it's not always so in your face. So then Virgo rising, these are the sophisticates of the zodiac. A lot of people can sometimes think Virgo risings are stuck up, but they can actually be very warm and down to earth and very cool people. But they're usually very well put together. They're usually modest, somewhat reserved. They have a kind of steady gaze, but they also, it's a mutable sign, so they also can move around a lot. But there is a steadiness and a modesty to them. They never want to be like in your face, or they don't want to like cause drama. They don't want to like cause ruffles. They just kind of want to observe. They're observers, you know, and they're usually the people that notice you before you notice them, because they're subtle, you know. They're not trying to make a big statement on their first impression. They're going to win you over with their intelligence and with their subtlety and their composure. And they can be very gorgeous people because they care a lot about their appearance. They want to look nice. They usually have good health, external health at least, like good, you know, teeth, and just they take care of themselves on the outside. Libra rising, these are the beauties of the zodiac, and also these sort of chameleons in a way I've found. They can be very artistic and very sort of changeable. They can kind of be whatever you want them to be, but overall they have a vibe of the artist and the aesthete to them, and they are usually very lovely and very eye-catching. But the thing about Libra rising is they want to keep the peace on like a first impression basis. They want to walk into a room and even out the temperature of the room. They're not someone that's going to be too dramatic this way or too dramatic this way. They kind of are even-tempered people that want everyone else to get along and everyone else to feel, you know, good. So they can kind of blend in that way because they adjust to their environments a lot. But physically, they're usually symmetrical, artsy. They definitely have a personality with the way they look and the way they dress. But ultimately, their aim is to bring balance and harmony to their environment. Scorpio rising, hi. These people are very intense, usually very passionate. The eyes, usually they have intense eyes. Yeah, I always get people, you know, complimenting me on my eyes or talking about my eyes. I can't hide it. It's just naturally intense. If you're a Pluto Scorpio rising like me, you want to have the black hair and the black clothes, and you want to be very dark and mysterious. But not every Scorpio rising is like that, but there's definitely an intensity. You know, even if they're like blonde and cheerful and smiling, there's still an intensity about them. They're the type of person you don't really know about. There's some questions involved with the Scorpio rising, but they are scoping you out and they can see through you, and it's very intimidating to some people because to be approached by a Scorpio rising can feel like you're on an X-ray and you can't hide from them because they just have this demeanor of like depth and intensity, and they're gonna push past all of that surface shit and get to the real you. So it can be intimidating, but definitely I would say the eyes, usually they like to wear black and just be sort of brooding, more intense and mysterious. They can also have the notorious resting bitch face. That is a real thing. Sag rising. These are the people that everybody wants to know, that everybody wants to talk to, that will talk to anybody and will be anybody's friends. They're like the badasses, the rock stars. Their hair is usually a mess. Their clothes are kind of whatever. Their mouths are kind of wide and like, you know, kind of, they're very like out there. They have this like disheveled hot mess look to them, but they're also they're just really fun, outgoing people that can get along with anybody, and they will try anything once. Like they're not afraid to just kind of put themselves out there, even just despite what their sun or moon or anything is like on the surface level. They are very outgoing, and they're just like fun, and they have this sort of mischievous, wild child kind of look to them. Capricorn rising. These people are definitely a little intimidating. They have a demeanor that's very like no nonsense. They're not the biggest smilers in the zodiac, but when they do smile, it's like, wow. They are very determined. They carry themselves with this poise that is really just naturally inherited. Like they stand up straight, they look you in the eye. And they usually have a sort of downward expression, like they're focused on their goal and they're trying to get there. You know, even if they have more wild other parts of their chart, they have this focus in the way that they look. And they're usually pretty put together. You know, it doesn't mean that it's not the perfection put together that like a Virgo rising would have, but there's definitely a level of being put together and being like ready for business. Aquarius rising, they are an enigma, honestly. They are sort of the chameleon, similar to Libra rising, but they always like to appear unique, colorful. They can kind of be different characters and sort of shock you with how they are. They're definitely individuals and outsiders, but they're very friendly. They're not like, they can be awkward, but they're not like the people that are like, oh, that person's a weirdo, because they're gonna be like social and like they're gonna like, you know, participate in whatever's going on, but there's a level of individual and sort of alienishness to them, like they kind of stand apart from the crowd, even if they're in the crowd. And they definitely like to make a statement with the way they look, not necessarily drastic, but like they're gonna be unique, and they're not very like they can kind of like just disappear before your eyes. Like they're not someone who's like has a defined look all the time. Like they usually can switch it up and sort of be hard to pinpoint. Now Pisces rising, last and final rising, these people are very kind, very sweet. They usually have a little bit of a sadness in their eyes, but different than the Cancer look. It's not as moody, it's a little more just dreamy. They kind of can just blend into their environment, but they're very open and welcoming and friendly, and they're the type of person that will like walk up to you and immediately just have this sort of like, they care about you and they want to hear about what you have to say, and like even if they're talking a lot about themselves, they're still just like this they kind of put people under their spell, and they fall under people's spells as well. They usually have very bright eyes and very sort of whimsical look to them, but they're very blendable and moldable and really kind people that other people can sense are very, you know, sensitive and empathetic and can feel the vibes of everyone else in the room. But they can be also very sensitive. Like they're that person that's gonna like shed a tear when you're talking to them and you're telling a story and they didn't even realize they were shedding a tear. They can definitely get into the emotions of the environment like really fast. So that's a little bit about risings. This is under 15 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed.